So my husband and I came out here to walk the cemetery and fulfill some Find a Grave photo requests. And very beautiful cemetery. It's well maintained. A lot of different family names on here. But one really stuck out to me, and I'm going to do a little story about it. And very interesting man, the Reverend George Washington Robertson.
Meet Reverend George Washington Robertson. He was born on October 15, 1853, and passed away on January 10, 1937. His life spanned some of the most transformative years in Southern history, from before the Civil War, through Reconstruction, and into the modern 20th century. During that time, he became one of Hardin County, Tennessee's most respected spiritual and civic leaders. Born in Walnut Grove, Hardin County, Reverend Robertson was shaped by a rural River County life rooted in farming, timber work, and close-knit churches. These early influences guided his lifelong devotion to faith, service, and community. He was a Methodist circuit rider, often called a saddlebag preacher, traveling primarily by horseback. He covered wide territories, serving 8 or more congregations at a time. His ministry included preaching, pastoral care, weddings, and an extraordinary number of funerals, so many that he was remembered as having conducted more funerals than nearly any minister in the county. His service spanned more than 60 years. In 1882, he founded Robertson's Chapel, which became a lasting spiritual and community anchor. He also served faithfully at Graham Church, his home church, along with Suttles Methodist Church near Bible Hill and throughout the Savannah Methodist Circuit. His work included brush arbor services, camp meetings at Walnut Grove, union services at places like Sharon, and Sunday preaching in rural schoolhouses. On June 30, 1874, in Waterloo, Alabama, he married Camilla Scott. Together, they raised 10 children, 7 sons and 3 daughters. Camilla passed away in 1932 at the age of 81. Following her death, Reverend Robertson married Tinsey Josephine Brown in 1933. She later passed away in 1955 and is buried in Memphis. Reverend George Washington Robertson died peacefully in Savannah on January 10, 1937. By that time, he had preached the gospel for more than 60 years, continuing his ministry until nearly 80 years of age. He lived long enough to see dirt trails give way to railroads and automobiles. Yet his values never changed. He left behind a quiet but enduring legacy as Hardin County's moral compass for more than half a century. A man who believed that to serve God was to serve the community in every way possible. In keeping with his wishes, he was laid to rest beside his first wife Camilla at Graham Cemetery, along Florence Road within sight of Graham Church, where he had preached for many years. His grave is sheltered beneath a small lattice-roof structure with a green shingled roof, one he built himself after Camilla's death as a final act of love and devotion. His family honored his request to care for the structure after his passing, continuing the tradition of placing flowers there each decoration day. With his burial, the community did not merely lose a preacher. It said farewell to a man who had guided its conscience for more than half a century. Reverend Robertson is remembered as a man of prayer, generosity, and quiet humility. He was mourned not only as a minister, but as a man who opened his home to travelers, fed their horses, helped the poor, and lived his faith every day. Obituary transcription, minister's rights held. Reverend G. W. Robertson, Savannah, Tennessee, January 12th. Funeral services for the Reverend George Washington Robertson, 84, a veteran retired minister of the Methodist Episcopal Church, who died at his home here early Sunday morning, were held at the local Cumberland Presbyterian Church Tuesday, conducted by the Reverend W. J. Fessmeyer, District Superintendent of the Baxter-Lawrenceburg District, the Reverend H. P. Keithley, pastor of the Baxter Methodist Episcopal Church, and the Reverend Floyd Blankenship, pastor of the Savannah Charge Methodist Episcopal Church. Burial was in Graham Cemetery, 6 miles south of Savannah. Survivors are his wife Josie Robertson, 5 sons: Oliver Robertson, Toledo, Ohio; Oscar Robertson, Kendrick, Mississippi; Walter Robertson, Savannah; Charles Robertson, Caruthersville, Missouri; and the Reverend Carlos Robertson, Columbus, Ohio. 3 daughters, Mrs. Minnie Rupert, Weston, Ohio. Mrs. Alice Maynor, Monte Vista, Colorado. Roxy Alice Robertson Nelson, and 21 grandchildren, 14 great-grandchildren, and 1 sister, Mrs. Sarah Owen, Durant, Oklahoma. He was a minister in the Methodist Episcopal Church for more than 50 years, being a local elder in the Central Tennessee Conference. He served as pastor of churches for more than 25 years. George Washington Robertson was a well-known and a well-beloved country preacher during the late 1800s and the early 1900s. His grave at Graham Cemetery on Florence Road is unusual. A small lattice house with a green shingled roof protects the graves of Robertson and his wife Camley. Ann Pickens, a granddaughter, said that Reverend Robertson built the little house over the grave of his wife when she died. When he passed away in 1939, he was interred beside his wife. He requested that his family keep the little house up after his death, and every decoration day they place flowers on the graves of their grandparents. Repairs on the lattice house that covers the graves are done periodically. Reverend Robertson was born near Walnut Grove in 1852. He began preaching in 1873, and that same year was married to Miss Camley Scott. The couple had 10 children: John, William, Minnie, Oliver, Alice, Mary, Oscar, Walter, Charles, and Carlos. For 62 years, Reverend Robertson preached salvation. He never took any money for his ministerial labors. He owned a good farm and was a successful farmer. He drew his livelihood from his farm operations, which was at the site of the J.E. Counts residence in the Graham community. He helped get several churches started, including Robertson Chapel near Cerro Gordo, which is named for him. Most of his preaching days were spent traveling on horseback, riding the circuit. He was a top-notch man, said his grandson John Robertson of Camden, who spent a lot of time with his grandfather. He never took a penny for his preaching, and helped build many churches. He helped the poor. He lived on Florence Road, and there was just a dirt road in front of his house. Lots of traveling people had hard times, and almost every night he would put someone up in his home and feed their horses. He was really a modern man for the time he lived in. He kept up with all the new inventions, and was one of the first people in Savannah to own an organ. George Washington Robertson, who was named after the nation's first president, preached until he was 80 years old. At the age of 84, he passed away and was interred beside his wife, inside the pretty lattice workhouse with the green roof. His grave is in sight of the Graham Church, where he preached for many years. Grandpa Robertson sure did believe in prayer, recalled his granddaughter Ann Pickens. I remember being a very little girl and kneeling beside my bed for my nightly prayers when I was at his house. Almost 60 years ago, George Washington Robertson posed for this photograph on a hot July day. I hope you enjoyed this account of Reverend Robertson. Thank you for watching.